Crazy Golf is an arcade-style golf game. It was developed by mere mortals and published by Phoenix Games for the PlayStation 2 in 2006. And this would be yet another budget entry in the long lineup of games from those developers. That gives access to playing as kind of like canine-style avatar characters, where you have to pretty much play in a multitude of different types of tricky environments based around crazy golf-styled elements. And the game gives you access to 3 different types of worlds, and each have 18 different courses in which to play on, from Sea World, Sky World and even Space World. But the other 2 worlds have to be unlocked, such as Sky World and Space World, as you play through the game initially. So the rules of the game are pretty much the same as what you see in any type of golf game, where you have to complete the course in as little amount of shots as possible to get the highest amount of scores, and therefore winning the tournaments, which will allow you to unlock any of the additional features in the game. So the idea behind it is simple in concept, but can be difficult in terms of its execution, because it has the same aspects of your typical golf game, but it does fall short in terms of its control systems, because this golf game is primarily more suited to someone that can use like a mouse and a keyboard rather than someone using a controller, because the control elements of this game is very, very tricky to master. It's overly sensitive and it doesn't really respond too well to various inputs. I find that the control system in this game is quite broken and flawed, to a point that you have to use the right analog stick and you have to use it in the downward direction and maneuver it in a way that you can change the sensitivity of the power bar, but it's not 100% accurate, and it's very, very fiddly and finicky and frustrating. Like, it has some nice ideas and it does have some cool kind of like courses to play on with some really good ideas and challenges to overcome, but the game, because of the control system, can be very, very frustrating and just a real turn off for many gamers. Haven't spent time playing it. There is certain instances where skill is required, yes, but a lot of it will be dependent on luck, because the majority of it really boils down to where you're aiming your shots, but it's mainly down to the amount of power that you can gain on each shot, and really just down to the controls. The controls, or being able to master the controls, which is very difficult to do, that's going to determine whether you win a course or not, really, as such. There are certain elements on courses, especially later on each of the levels, where you have more challenges and more obstacles to overcome, and some of them really are just luck based. It's just a kind of hit and miss. You'll probably end up finding that you'll have to replay the course over and over again loads of different times in order just to get one good attempt on it. That's what you'll find with it. Like, it does have some good ideas, but it just, because of the control system, that is the major gripe with this game. It will lead for a very frustrating experience, and having spent time playing it, that was the major issue that I had with it. The more I played it and the more I gradually started to get into it, I did get an understanding of the controls, but again, it takes a lot of patience to really master them, and even at that, you can't really master it because it's so sensitive and completely just broken, to a point that it really is just luck based to determine whether you're going to be able to pull off a good shot or not. Now, in some cases you will, but in many cases you won't. Unfortunately, it is what it is. This is a budget game after all, and the problem is with a lot of these budget games, because there is a massive ton of them on the PS2, but there's also a lot of them that they're just not developed well. They're just literally, a lot of them are just quick cash grabs, and they're just thrown together real quick and they're just thrown out there. And the thing is, a lot of these games did sell back in the day, but there often have to be questions being asked as to what were they doing when they were producing them, because there is certain elements of a lot of these games that are quite good, but there's always something that really lets it down. And in this case, this is a prime example of one of those games where the control system and the setup of it is terrible, if I'll be honest, which is a pity. But then there's a multitude of these different types of games on the system anyway, so you can have your pick literally on the amount of them that are out there. Because the one thing I'm finding myself as I'm reviewing, as I'm growing this channel, the more games I review, the more games I find that were developed by a lot of these developers, and a lot of them, while some of them do have good features, there's a lot of them that are just quite poor, if I'll be honest. And I know I don't like to speak negatively of games, but I have to be realistic in what I see, because a lot of these games aren't great. Yes, they're playable to a certain degree, and they do appeal to certain players, but they won't appeal to everybody. So it definitely leaves a very big question. What type of games were being developed for the PlayStation? Like, the PlayStation 2 has a ridiculous amount of games on its catalogue, but from what I've been able to play so far, and I've yet to still experience more games in the future, I've been finding that almost a third of the games in question, if not more, even half of them, are designed like this, and a lot of them are just quite poor to begin with. So it does beg the question. Now, people may disagree with me, and that's fine for what it is, but I think even looking back, these games have not aged well at all. There's definitely a bigger question, like, what were the ideas behind these games when developing them? Because like back then, when you released a game and if it was broken upon release, that was it. There was no way of taking it off the shelves and bringing out a new version or patching or whatever, not like you can do with games today. So you often have to wonder what were the ideas behind the games when they were being developed. Were they being developed as a quick cash grab, or were they genuinely that's the way they were developed? It's hard to really know and say, for instance, like, but it is what it is. Again, there's a lot of these games on the PlayStation, like I said, they will appeal to some players, they may not appeal to others, and a lot of these games got ported to the PC and especially even the Nintendo Wii, so that'll tell you that in some ways they probably were popular, just they wouldn't be for everybody. That's all I'll say. Like, it does have some nice features, and if you can pull off good shots, you will be impressed with what you're able to do in the game, but it doesn't happen that often. It's just there's too many things that can go wrong in the meantime for even one good chance to happen, but that's just the reality of these games. And the thing is, there's a lot of them on the PS2. You will experience a lot of them. I've yet to experience more of them, and I know myself that I'm going to experience more of them in the future, but I suppose that's just the fun of it at the end of the day. Like, I don't want to speak of it negatively, because even these games, while they may be considered poor, there is some positives to take from it to some degree, because they do have some decent features here and now, but it just depends on your own preferences, and the experience is what you make of it at the end of the day. But I would love to know your thoughts on Crazy Golf or any of these type of budget games for the PS2, and what did you think of them? Do you enjoy these type of games, or maybe not so much, or do you just find them as frustrating as everybody else? I would love to know your thoughts on this game, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to be updated with future videos. And if you would like to see more content on the channel around other types of golf games similar to this, then you can check out the playlist on screen to see more of those games in action. And I will see you all in the next one.